Hi there, it's Douglas McCarron again. Today I want to talk about some American history in the 1930s. It's called the Lawless 30s. A lot of people romanticize it. There was a there's actually a point where large sections of Kansas and Missouri, Nebraska, and Oklahoma didn't have police because there were like local gangs that just kind of ran them out. And a lot of people who seem to think it's a good idea to be able to impose their will on others really applaud this time. They like to get rid of the FBI. They want to get rid of all sorts of things. But you get the freedom to do what you want, but then you also get the freedom to walk around where everyone's got guns and people are getting shot. There were points during the Depression where people would storm grocery stores to take food, and there'd be gun battles, and eventually, it's kind of the start of the welfare state, where the government would send checks to grocery stores and just tell them to let people steal it because they didn't want people getting shot. But that was going on. And now it seems like a lot of people want to tear it down and get all the laws out of the way. We have a president who so far seems to respect the Supreme Court, but there are times he doesn't seem to be particularly interested in what's law. Well, I suppose it goes both ways. It does seem like when people vote, they kind of want whoever they vote for to impose whichever wing of the country's in. Has won the election, have them impose their views on how things should be instead of like working together as for the good of the country. And it's gotten worse on YouTube because everybody's so wrapped up in their internal dialogue and imagination, and also just kind of they want to present their view of how things should be, but the way you do that is you invent drama and get people to watch you and things like that. So you make these very accusatory videos about what's going on, and not really very helpful. Then you have people just invent stuff. Like Fox News, this is years ago, they had this thing about no-go zones, and I think it was in Belgium. And Belgium eventually had to like take them to court because no such thing existed. But Fox News just invented it because it was a good thing to lie to their customers about and get them all riled up so they could sell ads so they could make money. It was a Jesse Waters is reported to have, even though there was total evidence that Trump lost in 2020, the Fox just kept reporting it because they wanted to keep their customers riled up and get ratings up so they could make more money instead of doing something useful like telling the truth. But Jesse Waters likes to sit around and make money off of that lying. So we have this culture that seems to be getting away from trying to be somewhat reasonable and be law abiding. I don't know, maybe American history never really had it. When I grew up, which was after World War II, maybe we just had this brief moment of people actually tried to be, speaking of lawless, there goes a cop car. People tried to be nice, follow the law. Civil rights movement tried to be kind, tried to think of the other person, but I don't know. It's the more I study law, the legal history of the United States, the more I kind of am wondering if maybe I just lived in the brief time where people were trying to be that way instead of just fabricating stuff. I mean, I've read stuff from back in the 1800s, newspapers. Some of the things they say make YouTube sound tame. Just all these accusations. Because it's in the paper, it takes weeks to counter these arguments to get them back. And that's if the newspaper wants to run the retraction or the rebuttal. There weren't any real rules, and newspapers weren't designed to tell you the news. They were there to influence you because the person who owned the paper was rich and wanted to make you think what they wanted you to think. Same thing with television stations. There's also, what is it? I saw this, this really struck me. There was when the United States troops went over and they were fighting in World War I. They had this shotgun called a street sweeper. And you put like 8 or 10 shells in this thing, you just go. And the Kaiser was actually demanding that the gun be banned because it was such an inhuman weapon. Of course, the Americans were like, well, we're not going to, why should we let you shoot back at us? But they would use it to clear trenches. They just jump in a trench and two guys facing different directions, just mowing Germans down with them. But the thing that really struck me was it was actually a weapon the police in the United States used against crowds. And I suspect they weren't middle-class white people crowds. Probably shooting like poor white people and blacks and Hispanics. And you just go into this crowd that was doing whatever it's doing, and you might or might not tell them to disperse, and you just sit there and shotgun these people. And then probably make their friends pick them up. Not a lot of news on it, but that I can really point at. But the fact that large portions of the U.S. infantry got into those German trenches with these shotguns kind of implies to me somebody was making a lot of those shotguns before the war. And the police had them. Lynchings, lots of lynchings, buildings getting burned out. So apparently people want to get back to, who are you to tell me what to think? I can do what I want. I don't have to concern myself with you. You're an idiot if you think I do. And now it's just sort of exploding. If you don't... the thing that's odd to me, part of the reason I got off the internet is because there was a lot of that going. When I sit with my people I know, I'm kind of a middle conservative Republican sort of guy. But I have MAGA friends and I have friends who are very much on the left. When you actually just sit there and talk to them as human beings, there's not really that much people getting upset. But when we're lost in our imagination with our judgments and our feelings on everything, we can get really riled up and make the other person just this complete caricature in our brain and then hate them. And then you get somebody like power and give them these shotguns and they run around doing it. It's really weird. And it's not like the United States is the only. It has been going on all through human history. Again, I've talked before about the imagination. It's not just a bunch of thoughts in images. It's like this powerful force that kind of grips your attention and gets you to do what it wants. The Greeks used to talk about the gods would enthuse us, which they'd enter into us and force us, compel us to act the way they wanted to for their own, vicious amusement. So it's just been going on, the Nazi Party hating the Jews, whites hating the blacks hating the whites, Muslims hating the Christians hating the... They're all like accusing each other of being some particular way. And you're wrong and I'm right. And then you come back to my God is the right one. And really what you're doing is worshiping yourself. And you gotta if you actually want to experience truthfulness, it seems that you gotta let go of that stuff. Constant people trying to build up the best technology to shoot each other. It's just wild. The war in Ukraine, people say the Ukrainians should just give them land. The thing is, Russia, when they went into Austria-Hungary, deported hundreds of thousands of people and starved them and whipped them and made them speak Russian. And there's everybody in the East remembers this. And the U.S. were like, oh, just give up some land, no big problem. The Russians seem to consider everybody who isn't Russian somebody to be whipped into submission to do what they want. Well, I'm not going to surrender to that. And expecting somebody to do that seems a little weird. I'm kind of meandering here, but it really is interesting rather than, there's Bibles and services in all sorts of ways talking about we need to love each other, and yet we seem to get completely lost in our imagination. Even the you should be that way, that's judging them instead of actually letting go of the way you believe it should be. Well, anyway, I more and more convinced this imagination is this power that it gives us everything we love, but also blinds us from seeing what's actually really going on. Okay, Douglas Scott McCarron. If you want the truth, it's within, but you just have to let go of your Douglas Scott McCarron part. Check out dsmccarron.com. Got movies there. I'm going to put music up. Got my merch there, but twisted. Like and subscribe if you find this interesting. Share it if you can. And if you want to send a donation, I'd appreciate it. Help pay for all the equipment. And if you want to help a neighbor, I really suggest that. Something good about, it's not like it's morally good. There's something about actually caring for somebody else that gets you out of this sort of self-absorbed me thing that a lot of people seem to have. All right, well, thank you. Till next time, Douglas Scott McCarron.